www.menti.com and enter this code or like scan this QR code so that you have access to the presentation and you can like answer the questions that I'm going to go through during this. So I'll wait a couple of minutes for you to be able to do that, and then we can proceed. Okay. Hopefully everyone was able to join on Menti. So before we actually look into like all the different kind of admission exams there are at Oxbridge, I'm going to talk a bit about my own experience. So you can ask questions during this if you want in the chat, or that's okay. Oh, there's going to be like at the end time for questions, so you can also ask your questions then. I am happy to answer questions during the presentation too anyways. So my name is Gabriela. I graduated from Oxford and I did chemistry. So I graduated last year. And right now I'm doing my PhD in physics. So I really like sciences, and the way so I am not from the UK, which means that I'm from the EU though. So the process of application was at the time when I applied very similar to that from the UK. Like EU students were considered home students. So I have an experience pretty much similar to what your experience will be if you're from the UK, but the international student experience of applying can vary quite a lot. So it really depends where you're from. So as you know, there are like multiple steps to the application. First, you like write a personal statement. You choose your choices. On UCAS, you can choose up to 5 universities. And then in the case of Oxbridge, you might have to set some sort of exam that comes before the interview process. So depending on what you're applying for, there are like multiple tests. We're going to like discuss the ones that are like necessary for science subjects today. But when I applied, chemistry was in a bit of a like trial period. So at the moment, chemistry doesn't have a test. Back then, they tried to test if TSA was a good test for chemistry. So TSA is a thinking skills assessment. I think it's sat by people that apply for like law and philosophy, but it's mostly like a test with like lots of logics questions and like a bit of maths and stuff like that. So it's like more like a general thinking skills exam. So it was not exactly chemistry, but I have the experience of applying to such an and have to sit such an exam. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold. So what I think is important about these is that there is quite a lot of information that is available online about each type of exam. So you have the syllabus that I do recommend going through. You have past exam papers. You also have lots of like forums where people discuss either questions or their own experience. So I think that those are all very important things. For me, it was very important because not being really like a subject-based test, it was very out of the blue for me. So all of the kind of community on the student room and stuff like that was very useful. I do recommend using this sort of communities because people there, you can meet people that have similar experiences which you might not meet around in your school or your area. So those are some things that I would recommend. And then, of course, I recommend looking at the syllabus and making sure that you're happy with everything that is there. And only then going to past papers. I think there's like a, if you just do past papers, you might miss stuff. So it's good to like balance the two. For me, it was like the TSA was actually a really fun thing. So I do recommend looking at these tests also not as just the tests for the universities to see if you're good enough, if you want to use that sort of terminology, but also for you to see if you actually like enjoy these things. So even if when you're preparing, you actually find joy in like looking at these topics. If during the exam you enjoy the question, like those are good signs for you to see if these subjects are for you, if you really are enjoying. I'm not saying, okay, go and think about everything you went through so far and be like, oh, okay, I didn't enjoy this exam, so that means that I don't like chemistry. But it's a good thing to have in mind, and a good mindset that will not make you feel like, oh, this is the end of the world. It's also like something you can go through with an open mind. So you have the test, which generally has like a deadline of applying for the test that is before the deadline for the like application to uni. So you have to make sure that you get all of those deadlines correctly, and then only after everything like the exam, you will get an invitation to an interview. I think at the moment they are doing still online interviews. I'm not exactly sure about this year. The last year that was the case, but when I was interviewed, they were in person. So it was it was a really nice experience to kind of go and see the place. Not living in the UK was the first time for me. So I was a bit kind of scared, but also really thrilled. And I think I'm not going to focus that much on the interviews because I think there are specific webinars for that, but you can ask questions if you want. And then you get your offer. In general, that would be a conditional offer unless you already have your final exams results. So if you took a gap year or something like that, but usually it will be a conditional offer, and you will have to meet some condition. You can find for all the subjects on the Oxford website and then the Cambridge website, you can find the general conditions they have for that subject. It might be a bit different depending on what you did in the interview, but usually it's quite standard, so they're not going to vary a lot. So generally it's like A's and A stars, something like that, but they will accept others as well. If after you get your A-level results, you didn't get the grades, don't get completely swamped, because they that's okay, that's the conditional offer, but each college will make a decision on a case-by-case basis. So if the tutors really liked you, they might still give you an offer. If the people that they that got their offers, like they met the conditional offers, decided not to go, they might still have some places, so they might still give you that. So it's not the end of the world. And if you don't get an offer, like a conditional offer, I should have said that earlier, it's also not the end of the world. You, of course, can go to another university, but I know lots of people that have just reapplied, and on their second try they got in, and they had like an amazing experience at Oxford in my case, because I don't know that many people from Cambridge, but it's a thing that people do. So don't just get discouraged. If you think that Oxbridge is the place for you, and you might think that it's not after you like don't get in, like that's completely fine. You can go somewhere else. You will probably have an amazing experience wherever you go. But if you really feel like that's for you, you can try another time. So all of these should, of course, be considered carefully by you, your family, and your what you feel like, basically. But I think that you shouldn't just think that, okay, a no is just, it's impossible to get over. That's not true at all. Okay, so that's my story of getting into Oxbridge. It was my advice. So I think that my kind of application journey was a really joyful one, because I didn't know if I was going to get in, of course. Like, it's not like I went in and I was like, oh, whatever happens, I'm getting it anyways. No. But what I thought is that this is quite a unique process. Actually, no one told me that if I don't get in, it's okay to reapply. So I thought that it's a one-time thing. So I was like, okay, this is the only time I'm doing this. This is the only time I will be sitting this pre-interview exam. This is the only time I'm going to take the interview. This is the only time I get to go through all of this. So I might as well enjoy it, because it's an experience, and it can learn you. It can make you learn things about yourself, and about what you want to do, like depending on how you interact with all of these steps in the process. So think about it that way, if you can. Okay, so now, because we're focusing on Oxbridge, I assume since you came here, you already have your own reasons for applying to these universities. They are top universities. Like, academically, I think no one can say that that's not true. And what I appreciate about these universities is kind of that they offer a really nice environment for people that are passionate about their subject. Of course, any university will do that, but I think that the specific way in which people are like grouped in at colleges, and they have to get like a small group where they can have conversations about the topics in the lectures and everything, that really kind of nurtures an atmosphere where apologies, where you can actually have these conversations and like broaden your horizons. Whereas some other universities which don't have this like kind of small group system, it's hard to like find people that want to do that. It can be also easy. So it really depends what sort of person you are, I guess, if you're more introverted or more extroverted. But if you're like me, I don't know if I would have done that in an environment where I had to be very extroverted. Like, I became more extroverted during uni, but I came in as a big introvert. So I think I really appreciated that. And it's not just the people, like the other students, but also they have amazing teaching and lots of libraries and everything. So I think it's a great place for studying. I don't think it's the only great place. There are so many amazing universities everywhere, but this is the only one I can tell you about, really. Okay, so now we are going to get into the nitty-gritty of this application process. So for Oxford, there are two exams that you might have to sit before your interview. So those are MAT and PAT, which are on the 19th and 20th of October. And the ones for Cambridge are all on the same day. So on the 18th of October, the VMAT, the NGAAA, NSAA, and TAMU. And there's also the STEP exam, which is in June after you apply. So it's not that soon. I think actually these are actually the application deadlines, not when you sit the exam. Sorry, that's my mistake. I think they're kind of in November, if I remember well from when I sat them. No, that's not true. The deadline for all Oxford and Cambridge admission tests are in September, with the exception of LNAT, but that's not for scientists. So these are the ones that we talked about are all in September. So the deadline are all in September. So as I was saying initially, this deadline is before the deadline for applying for Oxford or for Cambridge. The deadline is usually mid-October. So you really have to be careful not to miss this deadline. If you only focus on your getting your personal statement done and you forget about this, then your application is not complete and it's not going to be processed further. So and it would be a shame to just miss everything because of a deadline. So why do you have to do an entry exam? So it's very, very difficult to see from a personal statement the actual, especially in science, the actual kind of level of knowledge someone has, and the way they're working, the way they're thinking. So personal statement is a big, important part of your application, but it doesn't really show everything that the tutors might want to know about you before asking you to come for an interview. And of course, they can find most of that when you come for the interview, but lots of people apply. So they have to do something before so that they don't interview everyone, because that would take forever. Also, most people that apply will get predicted very good grades. So again, it's very hard to differentiate people based on only these two pieces of information. So the tests are actually a quite important, quite big part of the application process, and they are weighed quite heavily when you are asked for an interview. They might become less important once you've been to the interview. So if your interview is really good and your, test score was not amazing, it might be changed. The actual weighing of the two might change a bit because, of course, they trust the interview a lot more than they trust the test, which doesn't tell anything about how you were feeling, how you're how you were able to tackle questions from different directions than the usual way of doing it. So they can't really see on any of that from the tests, but they can see everything in an interview. Of course, they're not magicians. They might make mistakes whenever, but an interview is a much more it's telling a lot more about you. So I'd say that once the interview step is coming, you can focus on what you did in the interview when you think about the process. But before that, the test is very, very important. So so I know that for the degrees that use tests, they play a very important role. So you should take them seriously. That's what I'm trying to say, basically. So these are the exams we're going to look at today. I'm just going to give you a bit of details about them. I haven't actually sat any of these exams, so I cannot really give you a personal experience about them. I am teaching. I'm a tutor, so I'm teaching students that sit NSAA sometimes, and I've also taught for PAT, but all the other ones I don't really know the structure. So if you have more kind of precise questions, you can either go on the website of these tests or ask Oxbridge Mind more detail via email. Okay, so first NSAA, which I'm, as I said, I'm teaching for, so I am more familiar with. So before we discuss like the details about it, let's kind of look through some questions. So this is a question from, I forgot the year, but what I'm not sure how this works. You should have now on your phones, if you've logged in like using this code on Menti, you should be able to answer the question. I hope that works. So I'll leave you for a few minutes to think about it. You can give an answer, and then I'm going to walk you through the solution. Okay, so in principle, the time you should take to solve each of an NSAA question is about 2 minutes. So I think that's over now. So I'm going to go and see what your results are. I hope I know how to do it. I might not actually know how to do it. Well, the correct answer was B, but I don't know how many of you answered and what answers you got. Is this? Oh, now I know. Okay. Yeah, so I think we have a pretty good thing going on. I can wait. Now everyone's seen it, so it's going up for the correct answer. Okay, so we're doing well. So let's discuss why is it this way and not the other way, in any of the other way. So first of all, what do we mean by a fair dice? Why do we mean a dice that is not fair? So if the one of the dice is fair, that means that each face has equal probability of being landed on. So that means that for each number we have a sixth. Whereas for the other dice, we don't have equal probabilities for all of them, and we are not being told directly what those probabilities of the unfair dice are, but we can work it out. So then the second information we're given is that when I roll the dice, the probability that I get a total of 12 is an 18th. So this is nice because there's only one way in which you can get a 12 when you roll the dice. So that's if you have 6 and 6. So the probability of getting 6 is going to be the probability of getting 6 on the first die times getting it on the second one. If both of them were fair, you would have a 6 times a 6. That would be 1 over 36. Obviously, this is not what we're getting. So we're actually getting something that is like more probable. It's like twice as big probability of getting this. So 1/6 times the probability of the unfair dice to get a 6 is 1/18. So that means that the probability of getting 6 on the unfair dice is a third. So 1 over 6 times 1 over 3, that gives 1 over 18. So now we've worked out the probability of getting a sixth on the unfair dice. But we don't know exactly how to get the what probability the other ones, the other numbers are landed on. But we know they're equal, and we know that the die is going to fall, so it's going to land on something. So the total probability has to be still 1. So that means that the sum of the probabilities of 1 to 5 plus the one of the sixth have still to be 1. These one have like equal probability. So 5 times the probability of one of those plus a third should be 1. So 2/3 is equal to the probability of getting any 1 to 5. So the probability of getting 1 to 5 is 2 over 15. I should have probably written something. So now we know the probabilities of getting everything. So if we want to look at any sort of dice combination, you can work it out because we know all the probabilities. So the question we ask is, what is the probability to get 2, like a total of 2 when rolling the dice? The only way in which you can do that is if you land 1/1. So you're going to have a sixth probability of getting 1 on the fair dice, and then we just calculated 2/15 probability of getting 1 on the unfair dice. So that's a sixth times 2/15. That gives you 2 over 90, which simplifies to 1 over 45, which is B. So this is like a math question in a way, but it's more like it's not like hard math. It's more like thinking about it and knowing what the probability is. So it's this is in the first section of NSAA, because the first section has like general maths, chemistry, physics, biology, and then the second part has like more advanced questions. This would be in the first part, but just because these don't have the name advanced doesn't necessarily mean that they cannot be tricky. So don't think that, okay, advanced means hard and not advanced means easy. Advanced can mean easy if you just know the maths that's being talked about. Okay, great. So that was the first question. And now we're going to look at the second question, which is more on my alley, is chemistry. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes as well, like I did with the other one. Okay, I think the 2 minutes are up. I can already see lots of likes coming up. So that means that you've enjoyed it. Okay, more likes coming up. Thank you. Okay, so let's see what you said. Okay, it looks like there's kind of a definite winner. Do we think it's the correct one? Yeah, it's the correct one. So this question is very much a question that you would actually see even on an A-level paper. So just because it's like for Cambridge, it doesn't mean that it involves any sort of extra knowledge than what you already have. Maybe it's phrased differently. In this case, I would definitely see a question like this on A-level without any issues. Like it's something that is very possible. So let's walk through it. So if you're not taking A-level chemistry, then you're fine. But if you want to sit NSAA, then you should know chemistry as well. So the difference between, we're going to discuss about A levels as well, like what sort of A levels you should sit. But sometimes the exam you're sitting must be in some topic that you're not taking for A level. So what's going on here? We have 3 indicators. So indicators are substances that are changing color depending on the pH they're in. And you're not supposed to know these colors or anything. Any question that is going to ask you something about them will also give you the colors. You will, when you go into the lab, you will end up like learning lots of colors because you're using them, but in general, you don't need to know them. So we have methyl orange, which is red at low pH, yellow at high pH, and changes color at pH 4. So that means that below 4, it's red, above 4, it's yellow. Bromothymol blue, it's yellow below 6.5 and blue above 6.5. And we have phenolphthalein, which you maybe already saw in school, which is colorless in low pH and pink in high pH. And for phenolphthalein, the color change takes place at pH equal 9. So it's not just the colors that are very different, but also the kind of range at which the color changes that varies quite a lot depending on the indicator, which is great because that means you can choose a good indicator for your system. So we have a solution that has pH 5 in which we add all of the indicators, which is something we never do in reality, but it's a good exercise, I guess. So the question is, what color would this solution be? So what you have to do is to look at individual indicators and see what their color is going to be, and then use or not a bit of color theory to like work out the color you get in the end. So methyl orange at pH 5 is above its pH change, so it's going to be yellow. Bromothymol blue is below, so it's going to be yellow as well, and phenolphthalein is way below its pH change point, so it's going to be colorless. So the color of the indicators are yellow, yellow, and colorless, which means that no color theory is needed at all, because that means that the solution is yellow, which is E. So well done to everyone for both of these questions. You did great, all of you. So some less fun things about NSAA, i.e. logistics. So this is needed for Cambridge, and it's needed if you want to go to natural sciences, veterinary medicine, or chemical engineering via natural sciences courses. So in general is if you want to do natural sciences at Cambridge. It has 2 sections. It takes 2 hours, and each section, so the first section has chemistry, biology, physics, mathematics, and the second section has advanced chemistry, physics, mathematics, and biology. So you have to be careful in reading the syllabus, making sure that you're happy with the things that are included in the syllabus. Most of them are things you are doing in A-level. So they shouldn't necessarily be new things, but sometimes the way in which these concepts are used in an admission test and the way in which they are tested in A-level is different. So that's why you should also look at past papers and see kind of the general trend of questions. I'm not saying learn questions. I'm saying kind of make sure that you are happy with the way these questions are phrased, the sort of things they're asking, what extra skills you're missing maybe from A-level that you need to kind of acquire in order to like be successful in your NSAA exam. But apart from that, it shouldn't be like very, very different to A-level. The only difference is that the only big difference is that you have like all of these subjects in one. So maybe you are not taking all of these subjects. So in A-level, so if you're applying for natural sciences, you are expected to take some sciences in your A-level. So generally people will take physics or math or chemistry, or biology, depending on what is the type of natural science you want to do. You might even take lots of like all the different sciences. So in general, you would be expected to take at least 2 subjects that are sciencey. So usually people take maths and physics, or chemistry and biology, or physics and chemistry. Actually, you can take anything. What I personally recommend is to take maths, because whatever you're doing, maths is quite useful. So if you're doing physics, chemistry, and also biology, I know it sounds like biology is not about that, but there's like lots of statistics that comes into play when you do biology. So maths is very, very important in all of them. So I would recommend taking maths, even further maths, especially if you want to do physics. These are the type of A-levels you would be expected to like have taken to apply to natural sciences. But of course, you can also take others on top of those. That was all about NSAA, which is the one that I have the most knowledge about. So then you have the VMAT, which is the biomedical admission test, and it's used by both Oxford and Cambridge for medicine. I think there's been like a seminar for like medicine applicants. Excuse me. I think, but we'll go through this because this is just for Oxbridge. So this tests your ability to apply scientific and mathematical knowledge. So it's not going to be like a medicine test. Like you're not supposed to know medicine already to be able to take the VMAT. They're testing that you have the potential to study medicine, to become a medic. So it will test things like critical thinking, problem solving, written communication, not just like it's not going to be like biology, like name things. So for this one, I recommend making sure you're happy with the syllabus, but also doing past papers so that you can see what sort of things they're expecting for you, especially in the area of like critical thinking and problem solving. If you find yourself like that part of the test is an essay written, like writing, like if you find that like that part of the VMAT is difficult and you need like more tests and you don't, and there are just a few past papers available, I do recommend looking at the TSA, which is still happening just for other subjects at Oxford. So the multiple choice part of that test is all about critical thinking and problem solving. And the questions are very, very similar. So if you need more resources, that's a good one. It's taking 2 hours. It has 3 sections. And for medicine, I would probably expect from my experience with like my friends that are medics, they took like chemistry and biology. They also sometimes like they did maths, because I do still think that maths is very important for everything. And sometimes they even did physics. So again, sciences. Chemistry is very, very important if you do if you want to do biomedical. Sciences, biology is of course very important too, but like chemistry is very important. Like I cannot stress that. Like I do teach also students that want to do biomedical, and sometimes they tell me like, oh wow, I didn't know, like after they get in, I didn't know like this chemistry was actually going to be helpful. But it is like a very big part. With my friends from that were doing biomedical things at Oxford, we would always sometimes have common topics that we were covering. We would have similar worksheets, even though I was doing pure chemistry. So I cannot stress enough how important chemistry is for this degree. Okay, then we have NGAAA, which is the test for engineering at Cambridge. So it also has two sections. So you have, it's in a way similar to the NSAA, but without the chemistry and biology. So you have mathematics and physics for section 1, and advanced physics for section 2. They're all multiple choice, and I think they're all like you have like 30 questions each. So the kind of general time scale is like I say like about 2 minutes per question. So I didn't say that then, but I'm saying it now. It's timing is very important. So the questions might not be very difficult, but there's a lot of them. So that's also like a thing to keep in mind. Okay, so now we're moving on to the MAT, which is the exam you have to sit if you want to do maths, computer science, or things that involve maths and computer science at Oxford. So when I'm saying things that involve like in at Oxford, you can like do maths and physics, maths and philosophy, computer science and physics, and computer science and philosophy. So you can do different kind of joint honors. But if they involve these two subjects, you will have to sit the math test. So it's very, very important. Like this I know from like, not exactly my experience, but I know people that I like, they were great and they had amazing like personal statement and everything, but they just did very poorly on their math test and they didn't get an interview. And then they applied a different year and they took it seriously and they got in and they did amazingly. So it's a very like, it can mean that you don't get an interview even though you're a good student. So take it seriously, not just this one, in general. So the test aims to like test depth of mathematical understanding that you have from A level. So it's not going to be like lots of different topics. And even if it is like topics, they're going to be presented to you in a way that you don't need to have lots of like extra knowledge. They're going to be presented to you in a way in which they make you think and they make you show how you understand maths. And I did some math questions for fun, like our maths tutor in first year would show them to us, being like, oh, what do you think about this? And they were fun. Like they are really like, they make you think. So again, there is a syllabus that you should look at, but it's more about kind of practicing the way you think about maths, not the things you know. And also, I forgot to say, you don't need to do further math for this one to be able to sit the math test. So you're fine if you're not taking further maths. If you want to do maths and computer science, I would still recommend doing further maths because it's going to like be a lot easier for you in your first year. Usually after first year, everyone kind of has the same knowledge. Like the first year has this ability to like leveling the ground, but it can help you a lot in your first year. And even in other subjects, like for me in chemistry, knowing further maths made the maths course so much easier, because I really like I could engage with it a lot better. I had kind of some knowledge and I had time to understand the new knowledge, whereas sometimes if it's something, everything's new, it feels like people just throw new things at you and you don't have time to sit with it. So further maths, I do recommend it if you're into maths. Like if you're not, you can survive without it. Okay, so a bit about the structure of math. I think there are you have 6 questions and you have to only attempt 5 of them, depending on which like degree you're applying for. So if you do math and statistics, math and statistics, or math and philosophy, you should do 1 to 5. If you're doing something with computer science, you should instead leave question 4 out. That's because questions, I think 4 and 6 are kind of like question 4 is a bit more pure maths, whereas question 6 it's a bit more computer maths, computer sciencey. But 1, 2, 3, they're all, and 5, they're for everyone. So question 1 is multiple choice. It has 10 parts, each worth 4 marks, and it doesn't really matter like how you were thinking about it, because you only get marks for the correct answer. Whereas for the other questions, you need to show your working. So that's where you can get marks in, like, even if you don't get the correct answer, but you have like a good process, or you can like show a different way in which you're thinking about something. It's still like a standardized test, so they're not going to like be mega impressed if you come up with a new solution to something. But what I'm saying is that you might like get marks for intermediate answers. New things is to math compared to like last year, is that before I think there were like 7 questions and now there's only 6 of them. And the institution that delivers the tests is now different. It's like the Tata Consultancy Services. And you can find all of this information on the Oxford University website. I don't know lots of details about it. Then we have the PAT, which is the physics aptitude test. So it's set by people that want to do physics at Oxford or physics and philosophy. It's also a 2-hour test. It's physics and maths only, even though it's like you have to sit for physics and philosophy too. It doesn't really test anything but physics and maths. And I think it's in a way similar to the math test, but it also has some physics questions. And the last one is the STEP, which is like a test that has like multiple like paper-based examinations. So you usually sit step 2 and step 3. So different candidates might be required to sit one or all of the 2 examinations, depending on the university. So this is not an Oxford only or a Cambridge only university. But for example, if you want to apply to read maths at Cambridge, you might be required to sit the STEP. So they consist of 12 questions. 8 pure maths, mechanics, and statistics and probability. So it's mostly for people that are interested in maths, but in principle, you can sit it if you want. As well, for other degrees, you can add it to your application, but I don't think it would necessarily mean something. For most unis. And then we have TAMU-A. which is also a test for mathematics, which is used for people that want to apply to maths and math-related courses, like computer science or economics, but it's used by Cambridge, so it's the equivalent of the maths test. And it's includes both mathematical thinking, so questions that are like based on maths, but also reasoning skills and thinking skills and stuff like that. So you kind of, in most of these tests that I've presented, you'd never get rid of those questions that are about thinking and reasoning and problem solving. So just knowing content doesn't take you that far with questions like these. Okay, so these were all tests that you probably like, because I never said any of them, and apart from some that I am teaching for, you probably know a lot more about them in particular, like you've looked over the past papers, you know what's going on, but maybe you don't know how to approach them. So my experience, both as a student that sat an exam and as a tutor, is that, okay, content is important, so you should get familiar with the syllabus and make sure that you know the things before you go into past papers. Because if you go into past papers and you don't know how to do it, you look at the answer and then you rationalize and can understand the answer for that specific question, that's not necessarily going to transcribe into you understanding the topic and being able to apply that knowledge somewhere else. So you should first make sure that you're happy with your understanding and only then go into past papers. And then you can, of course, mix and match, because sometimes you might do a past paper and realize, oh, I don't know this topic that well. It's basically like A-level preparation. So you should be familiar with this, but it's like, it can be a bit more intense because it's there's not that much information available. There are not that many past papers. So as I said, it's good to like use like these like the student room and other forums where you can maybe ask for recommendations from people of like things to read, things to use. I always have appreciated those kind of communities. Then another reason why I wouldn't go into like solving past papers first is that usually it's the like kind of foundation that is lacking, and then in the answer they give you the foundation and you're like, okay, but you haven't necessarily understood it, you just took it for granted in the answer. And that's the thing you should start with. Like if you have that, then everything will build on it. But if you are just given that and then you understand everything, that doesn't mean that your foundation like is consolidated. So always make sure that content is prioritized. But once you have that, and once you did past papers and you understand the questions, and the very important thing is timing. I understand that it's very difficult to know how you will do under exam conditions, especially if you're like really like stressed and anxious. Like these things are normal. So if you time yourself at home and if you do it in an actual exam, it might be very different. But I do think that it's good to work on your timing and to like do things under like solve past papers under time conditions. So trying to mimic as much as possible the actual exam conditions. They might not, you cannot fully recreate those conditions, of course, but you can get a bit better at it. And hopefully at this point you have enough exam experience that you know how you work under like stress and under exam conditions. So hopefully it's not like this is my first exam. If it is, I don't know how you did it. I wish I were you, but then it would be probably a bit more difficult. So these are the kind of important things. And my other advice, which I said at the beginning, is to also try and enjoy it. So the questions usually in most of these exams, they are not just about knowledge, they're also about depth, they're also about like understanding. And the way they're framing them, like it might be like a completely new perspective from something that you were considering before and you were looking at an A-level and you were just churning some formulas out, and now there's like a new perspective in this question. And I would say embrace that. Like if something like that happens and you have like a revelation, like relish in it a bit, and that means that you've made a good choice, because you can have joy out of this. So I know this might sound like, oh, how do I do that? But try it, and I hope that works for you, because it was really nice for me to be able to do that. Okay, so how can Oxbridge Mind help you? There are multiple ways. This was a way in which I hope I was able to help you. We also offer tutoring for most of these exams. So like for all of the exams that I mentioned here, of course. We also offer tutoring for personal attainment, for interviews, and you get like your own tutor that works with you. So I have students that I do that with, and I kind of see their progress. I work with them on the personal statement, and I see what their strong points are, what their weak points are. Like I get to know them, and like make their application process easier, and also kind of more secure in a way, because they feel like you can feel a bit lost, especially if your school doesn't have like a big kind of network of like not all schools have lots of students that set these exams or like apply to Oxbridge, so it might feel like you're on your own, and that can be really tough. So that's what Oxbridge Mind can help you with. People usually are very happy with these, and you can find more about Oxbridge Mind on the website, on any of these. And we also have like resources that are freely available. So we have the Oxbridge Guide, which is all about kind of how to apply, a college comparison, which kind of goes into the different colleges, because that might be something you're worried about, like what college am I choosing? I was at Christchurch, I forgot to say that. So if you have questions about colleges, or my college in particular, feel free to ask. We also have a YouTube channel where you can find kind of different tutorials and lessons that you can use. So apparently there are no questions so far from the audience. This took a bit longer than I was expecting, so I won't be able to answer questions. But if you have any quick one, maybe I can answer. So it's, I mean, if you just Google it, like it's literally the first thing that shows up. So it's not, I think it's on the Cambridge website or something like that. If you just Google NSAA syllabus, it should be there. Why should you apply? Well, as I said, so in general, why should you apply to university? If that's the question, well, in general, applying to university is great. I think it offers, like, it gives you lots of kind of opportunities. Like you can do a subject that you enjoy and then end up doing something that's completely different. It's not about, oh, I'm choosing this thing and I'm going to stick with it my entire life. It's more about kind of the skills that you're learning at university, about kind of the people you meet, the kind of networking you're able to like get involved in, which is like very difficult to like find in any other environment. So university is like a very unique place for that. Why should you apply to Oxbridge? Well, they're great universities. If they you can kind of look into the specific course you're interested in and see if what they're offering feels like something you're enjoying. I think that in general, you can decide that other university might be more appropriate for you. So I do think you should do a bit of research. Why I recommend Oxbridge is, as I said, because of this kind of college system, which makes you feel like you're in some sort of home, you have some sort of like family, you have your tutors that are only taking care in a way of you and a small number of students. So it feels very personalized. It feels very like you can, like it's just for you, and you can grow in all the different ways in which you're able to. Whereas some other places might have like bigger groups, and it might be more difficult to feel like it's like an individual experience. So as I said, how to prepare for the admission tests, you should look at the syllabus. Most of the syllabi of these tests include things from A-level. So first of all, go through the A-level like the A-level content. Some of them also have like recommendations of kind of resources like books that you might want to look at. So you can look at those books. And also you can, of course, get a tutor from Oxbridge Mind or from somewhere else that can help you and give you more personalized kind of resources. Like I have my own kind of notes that I give to students, and I can like make new presentations or different things that will help them. So of course, having someone to be there with you along the way is the best choice, but it might not be, maybe not the best, but it's a really great choice if you can get someone. So that's a good thing to do. Okay. I think so. I think NGAAA is required for all engineering at Cambridge, not for Oxford or for other universities, but for Cambridge, yes. As far as I know, I don't want to say, so you should go on the website and make sure that's the case, but I'm pretty sure it's true. So this was not like an interview thing. I think there will be webinars or interview, but from my experience, they're not looking for some types of answers. They're looking for you to be genuine, to show, like, on top of like answering the question, of course, they want you to see, like, they want to see the way you're thinking. So if you don't know an answer, don't say I don't know. I mean, you can say that after you like try to work through it, but like try to answer out loud, try to show your kind of way of thinking. And tutors are not there to see you suffering. They will kind of try to guide you, they will try to give you hints. So they want to see that, and they want to see genuine joy. So they want to see that you really like what you're saying, like you're doing. And when you talk about chemistry or another subject that you're applying for, that it really makes you happy in a way. Okay, so those are the things I would say. Be genuine. Don't try to like tutors are people. Like, they can see if you try to like seem like you're not who you are. They are trained in this, they have done this for years. So yeah, just be yourself. And if you do like your subject, it's going to be evident. Okay. Oxford versus Cambridge, that's like a yeah, that's the big story. So it really depends what you're applying for, because I feel like the subjects, not all of the subjects that are offered are both universities, or I mean, they are offered, but in different combinations. So I will tell you my personal experience so you can see how different this is. So I did chemistry. Now I'm doing a PhD in physics. If I think about it, I would have liked to do natural sciences at Cambridge, because I could have taken the turn to physics a lot earlier than PhD. Because now I'm finding it a bit difficult to kind of like go into the nitty-gritty with the physicists, because we kind of speak different languages. But for someone that was sure from the beginning that they wanted to do chemistry, even the fact that they had to, like, they wanted to do organic chemistry. I have a colleague that is like really into organic chemistry. He's doing a PhD in organic chemistry. And even the fact that he had to do some like physics classes during the The chemistry degree at Oxford was a bit like, oh, I would like to do just organic chemistry. That's what I want to do. So for us, we had very different needs. Therefore, for me, Cambridge would have been better, maybe. But I'm happy with what came up, so I'm not regretting it. Just if I had to do it again, I would choose Cambridge. So I think it really depends on your personal experience. I can't say choose this one or this one. You have to like balance the two and see which one is better in terms of like community and stuff. I think they're very different. They're very similar. Like I have friends in Cambridge I visited a lot during my degree, and I felt very much the same. Like it felt quite similar. So I wouldn't say that one of the places is completely different. It's more, I would say it's more about the courses. You can maybe, you like a specific tutor you want to be tutored by, so you will go to that university. I don't have like an answer, like a solution to this. It's like the most common question, really. Okay, I'll answer a few more. That will be it. I already answered this. Okay, so someone picked up on what I was saying. Universities in the UK, at least, they have like a big culture, whatever. They have like lots of kind of opportunities to socialize with people and to meet over things they were interested in. So like at Oxford, there are societies for everything. There were societies from tea drinking society, tea appreciation society, to like sports societies, to like poetry groups, to lots of things, very, very kind of varied things. And in principle, whatever you want to do, if there are two more people that want to do it, you can start the society with. So in principle, you will find people that are interested in what you're interested in. And if you go somewhere for your interest, like if you go to a talk and you're thinking, I'm not going to socialize, I'm an introvert, I want to sit, listen, and then leave. This might happen a couple of times, but then you might like meet people that you want to talk to because they show up at the same events and you're interested in like meeting them. So it kind of brings you into an environment with people that are like-minded, so you're more likely to like communicate with them and socialize and make friends. And I think that if that happens enough times, you will kind of come out of your introvert shell. I'm not saying that it's bad being an introvert. I love being an introvert. But I also think that the university experience kind of made me be still introverted, happy with who I am as an introvert, but also I know how to approach people. I know how to like meet people that I enjoy spending time with. And before, I just thought, whatever, I'll just be at home. Did this. I don't actually know prices. I'm sorry. You can email Oxbridge Mind, and you can get details. There are also details on the website. I don't know the answer to this. So I think it really depends. Like I think the school can register for you if it's like, in general, the school registers for you. And you talk to the school. I personally had to register individually because I don't come from the UK, so I am not completely sure about how this works. But you can ask your teachers, and I think some people, like other people from Oxbridge Mind, will be more knowledgeable about this. So I think it really depends, like kind of what friends you're making at the beginning, and what, not at the beginning, in general. Like it kind of, I feel like people had quite different experiences. So some people were affected by the competitiveness at Oxbridge. So I'm not trying to say, oh, this is like, there's no competition. There is competition, and it can affect you depending on who you end up like living with, what college you are at, whatever. Like there are lots of things that can make you be in an environment which is very competitive. But I personally didn't feel affected by it because as I said, I went to places, met people that were like-minded, and I could kind of get away from it. So for me, it was not hard to enjoy the university experience. It was not hard to like have a nice time. But I think that people have different experiences, and I don't want to say, oh, go and it will be amazing. However, I do think that there's competitiveness everywhere. Oxford has more of it. I agree. But if you're a person that is very competitive, you will kind of bring that out wherever you go. So it's also about kind of how you think about it. I'm not trying to do victim blaming here. There are places that are toxic, and there are and like Oxbridge can have that. But I think you can also avoid it with the right people. Okay, I think I will stop here. Thank you everyone for attending. It was very nice. I hope, I'm sorry for not being able to answer all your questions. I hope this was helpful, and I wish you all good luck with your application. And I hope you make the good choice for you, and that you'll end up where you want to end up.